Hey there YouTube, and welcome back to episode 3 of Jay's Beer Reviews. So today I'm excited to try a different one with you guys. I tried a Goza style, I tried IPA. Everyone has their own, all their favorite. They love pale ales, they love golden ales, they love Belgians, whatever. I'm really excited today because I'm going to try something that's kind of outside of my norm, something I don't always get to try. Something that not that I don't care about it very much, but I would much rather drink something like an IPA than something like what we're doing today. So I'll reveal the beer to you guys here. It is a beer from Lagunitas from their 2017 one-hitter series. It is Davey Murray's Best Scotch Ale. Before we go ahead and try Davey Murray's Scotch Ale, I'm going to go through the style category for you guys. So a Scotch Ale would fall under basically category 17C in the Beer Judge Certification Program style guidelines. And that style is a wee heavy. So a Scotch ale is much different from a Scottish ale. A Scottish ale is usually a lighter beer. So that's, they have like the Scottish like 60 shilling, the 70 shilling, 90 shilling. Odell makes an awesome 90 shilling beer. And they're similar in character, but they are actually very different. So for the wee heavy, it's the Scotch ale that is much stronger than anything else, right? It's kind of like when you look at the American Pale Ale, you look at the IPA, and you look at the barley wine. They're all kind of similar color. They edge up toward a little darkness. They edge up toward a little bit more hopping rates. It's the same thing with the wee heavy. So your Scottish shilling ale is going to be the lighter alcohol beer, usually lighter in color, closer to a kind of amber or golden, whereas the Scotch ale is going to be darker. It's going to be stronger in alcohol, stronger in malt character, stronger in hops. It's basically just the same beer, but let's say it's on steroids. So let me grab my BJCP style guidelines. I see the wee heavy here. For the overall impression, it's for a rich, malty, dextrinous, and usually caramel sweet beer. So these beers can give an impression that is suggestive of a dessert. Complex secondary malt and alcohol flavors prevent a one-dimensional quality. Strength and maltiness can vary, but should not be cloying or syrupy. That is the key thing for beers like this. When you inch closer toward like barley wines, the American barley wines, British barley wines, Scotch ales, sometimes when you have them, they're like overly sweet, they're syrupy, they're actually kind of gross. It's like you get to the end of the pint and you don't want to drink anymore. That is really not what any beer is supposed to be like. So if you're having a beer like that, they probably made it wrong. So what the style guideline says is that it should be rich, it should be kind of caramelly. One thing I will say is that they mention a couple times in the description that there should not be a smoky character derived from peat malt. A lot of breweries were adding peat malt because they thought Scotch ales were like Scotch, like peaty, smoky. Not quite what the beer is supposed to be like at all. Again, it's just a kind of caramel forward, a malt forward, higher alcohol, stronger beer. There should not be any peat malt added to it. Actually, it says in here at least 3 times, it says no peat malt should be present. And then it also says here for a style comparison, it is comparable to something like an English barley wine. So again, an English barley wine would not have peated malt either. It's going to be caramelly, it's going to be malty, it's going to be very rich. The one thing I will mention about the style guidelines, it says for hops, they should be very restrained. You can have some present, but it should be very low. And then, of course, last thing from the style guidelines, some of the commercial examples of good Scotch ales. So number 1 example would be Bellhaven Wee Heavy. And then second would be Gordon Highland Scotch Ale. There's also McEwen Scotch Ale and a couple other that I've never seen or heard of before. So they're probably commercial examples you would get either from a really good importer or something you'd have to get over in Europe. Okay, so that was the style rundown. Again, a rich malty beer. It's going to be very full in the mouth, very low hops. So let me go ahead and grab the bottle here. So the one thing about Lagunitas that I like about them a lot is that they always have the same thing going on for all of their labels. Like I showed you guys with Off Color, they have the same kind of motif that runs through all of their bottles, which is pretty cool. It's very recognizable as a brand. Lagunitas does the exact same thing. So they always have just this, it's almost like parchment paper label that's on the bottle here. So the paper itself has got a little bit of a texture to it, kind of feels nice. Then they always have just a rectangular label on these stubby bottles. They're not the long neck ones. So then of course it just says Lagunitas 2017 one-hitter series. Davey Murray's Best Scotch Ale is the name of it, by the Lagunitas Brewing Company, from Petaluma, California, and Chicago, Illinois. I'm suspecting the only reason I can get this here is because they're brewing in Chicago. Another good thing that Lagunitas has here is that it always has the alcohol content. So this one's a little strong. It's 9.5. Most wee heavies range somewhere between 6.5% to 10%, so it's right in that range. And Lagunitas always does this. They have like the little description about the beer that goes around the label. It's kind of cool, but the thing I hate is that I have to turn the bottle around if I want to actually read it. So I don't really like doing that too much, and honestly, most of the time when I do read it from Lagunitas, it's some garbage that doesn't really tell me anything about the beer. It's just some goofy thing that they decided to put on the bottle. So I mean, I'll take a look at it, but I don't really try too hard to read it because it doesn't really tell me anything about it ever on any of their bottles. And the one thing I will say about Lagunitas is they do have a really good website as well. A lot of their beers, they'll have like some vital statistics, like the bottle of beer right here doesn't tell me the IBUs, but I saw on the website that it's like 55. So there's a lot more information over there. They also have a video of one of their brewmasters reviewing the beer. So they do that for a lot of their beers. They have a little bit of extra media to go along with it. They have some extra information. So definitely worth checking out if you're interested in Lagunitas Brewing. And then my last point about Lagunitas is that as a brand, I've been drinking them since I got into craft beer. They've been around for a very long time. I do really like their beers. That said, I do know what I'm getting when I buy one of their beers. Lagunitas is very well known for making hoppy beers. Even their brown sugar is supposed to be, again, a big, rich kind of malty brown ale kind of thing. It's got a really nice hop kick to it as well. So when I buy Lagunitas, like I said, I do really like their beer, but I kind of know what I'm getting into when I buy their beer. So I hope you liked a little bit of information about Scotch ale as a style. Join me in my next episode where I'm actually going to pour the beer and I'll give you my tasting notes on it. If you did enjoy, please go down, hit the like button. So go down to the bottom and hit the subscribe button for me, okay? I really appreciate it, guys. And join me next time for part 2 of Davey Murray's Best Scotch Ale on Jay's Beer Reviews. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ba-bam!